Basically, the first question, and you don't need to answer it to me, but I think you need to be able to answer it to the people that you're teaching or coaching. And if you're on like we saw in the poll, you're looking to do a better job of feeding your pipeline, and I'm all for that. I mean, at New Mexico and Colorado, my daughter had an amazing pipeline that started in sixth grade that resulted in back to back to back to back state championships because as 14-year-olds coming out of eighth grade into high school, they were starting ahead of the seniors because they had so many skills at being an all-around volleyball player. And I also think of a club that does it incredibly well. There's one club that has fed USA Volleyball about 15 Olympians. One club, one place. And that's in Hawaii. And the reason is because they have a full-size court for adult men and a full-size court for the women, but they have a baby court at Outrigger Canoe Club. And that is a 2-on-2 court. Although you can play 3-on-3, kids don't want to sit out and stuff, but it's smaller and the net is lower, and they're watching the adults play as this happens. And that's the first thing, I guess, for those of you that are college and high school coaching, is to get down to the middle and the elementary school to share the ideas we're going to be talking about here today, and to help them make volleyball be a kid's favorite sport, even at sixth grade. And that's part of the secret of developing your pipeline at all levels, or a great experience at a summer camp as well as part of this. So we'll be covering all that. The core of this presentation, actually, I worked for 2 months earlier this year in Bonaire, working with their elementary to national team program. Not a big country, part of the Dutch ABCs. And wonderful people, Gisette and Joe, Emer, and I'll be going back, had a setback because of Hurricane Ian in our life, because our home in Florida got hit pretty hard. So we're going back down there in probably February to finish up the project. But this is a one-page handout that I did with every school, elementary and middle and even high school in a clinic, saying this is the way your pipeline should develop so that you can be great at either 6-on-6 or even the doubles game. Bonaire, 23,000 people is the country, 5,000 total kids, 6 elementary schools. So for them to be able to think about getting to the NORCECA highest level, our zone, or to the international level of competing on the world tour, they have to start with these ideas with young kids. So my philosophy personally is to develop amazing leaders. Why? Because only 3% of the kids you're going to work with are going to be at the collegiate level or above. And my son's playing on the national team these days. They're playing for Berlin overseas. And it was kind of, he's got some great stuff you can read on his Cody's curation and the stuff he's doing, because he's talking about how do you get to be part of the 1% of the 1%. Well, so I got a kid that did that, but this kid that did it and his sister didn't play the 6-on-6 game, even though they both played in college, until they're about 15 years old, 14 years old. So part of this secret is Beach Nation that, we're part of, and the opportunity to bring indoors the 2-on-2 game. So let's go to the next slide here about, ask a kid, do you want to do a game or a drill on anything? And they'll look at you and go, are you kidding? Of course I want to do a game. And that has some answers into it that you don't see in the fact that if you go to Google and type On volleyball drill, you'll get 30 plus million choices. Most of them, 99%, are not as effective and efficient as what we want to do. And if you're a PE teacher working with these kids, you have to be way more effective and efficient than a program that is getting talent already coming in, because you're the one that's giving them a love of the game. And you're the one that's getting them to first understand how this game is played. And obviously, games are way more fun. The mini volleyball book that in the end of this is that I got a resource section, has some 100 scoring variation options. And that lets you take the same game, even let's just say doubles or triples, and keep changing the score in different ways, resulting in simply this amazing opportunity to learn the most important skill, which we're going to cover in a minute here, reading, not serve reception, not passing, but reading the game. So the difference is, as you go up the pipeline and as you go up in your skill level, the scoring is usually highly competitive. At this level, you want both sides of the net to work together as a group of small, group of 5 kids, 2 or 6 kids or 4 kids or whatever, to see how they can do compared to the other kids in the class or in the club, in the gym itself, or in the camp. And you do that with what we call cooperative scoring, where you see how many times they can do something in a row as a both side of the net group. So you don't compete right away that way. Your group of 4 is attempting to beat the other kids in the gym or in the, on the grass or on the beach. And cooperative scoring is another way to measure how well I'm doing as I moved through the training and the experience of my first or second year. The ability to say I started and I can only do 2 of these in a row together, pass, set, hit, and now we can rally 20 in a row before we make a mistake. That's a pretty important example of I'm getting better. The other thing, of course, is to lower the net for the younger kids. That ties into the first skill you want to teach, which is spiking. So let's get to the next one, which is about mistake making. And I see that you corrected my mistake. In my Bon Air document, I spelled it making let's see, how do I do it? MSTAKS or something,
Yeah.
And either you automatic spell checked it to do it, or didn't understand that the whole point was to say mistakes as a word, it being wrong. But
I definitely wanted to go out and get some steaks after I read that part.
your gym that you've created, whether it's indoors or outdoors, is this exploratorium, that term coined in my experience by Bill Neville, decades ago, for the national team. It's a place to explore your edges, your limits, new things, and make mistakes in that process. You just don't, we've got this amazing, great game that you can't hold on to the ball like other sports with mitts or holding and throwing or running or, not, tackle me or whatever, but I get to hold on to the ball. We don't have any implements other than our bodies, unlike tennis or golf, but we still can't hold on to the ball. So being in the right place at the right time takes a lot of practice, a lot of reading, a lot of experience before you can be in the right place at the right time. So you want to make your gym a safe place to err. I say a place of no fear to make a mistake. Too many coaches, young John Kessel, as we call him, crossed their arms, came into the gym, looked around, and the only time I came up to players was after they made a mistake. And it's flipped around now completely to I watch a mistake happen. It's called summary feedback in motor learning. If it happens multiple times, I probably should comment. But if it's 1 out of 5 or 2 out of 5 or even 3 out of 5, I'm not worried about that mistake. We're learning through mistakes. I mean, that's how you learn to ride a bike, without a coach. Let's go to the next slide. So I spoke earlier, and I can't say this enough. The number one skill is reading in our game because of the fact that you have to be at the right place at the right time. And that doesn't happen as you touch it. It happens way in front of that. In fact, I know I talked to Misty about this one clinic we were doing, and I've asked Karch, and I've asked a lot of other coaches and players and liberos, how much of your success at serve reception happens before the ball comes over the net? And they all say about 80%. What does that mean? It means that by the time the ball's crossing the net, you're either toast or you're going to look good. But what I did as a young coach is I practiced same side of the net, back and forth, practicing passing, which has no value in real serve reception other than to learn to send it back to where it came from. So there's a great bronze module on reading that I highly recommend. But it's learned, like it says, over and through the net. That's how you read before it crosses the net, or that's how you read when you're at the net and you see it coming to you, because the game is serve goes over the net, it goes towards the net, it goes along the net, and then it goes back over the net. So see it come over the net is over half of it. And as a setter, you want to read serve reception, not a throw from a coach, because that's what you're going to have to react to. And the sooner you get better at that, the better you are at any age. There's some resources of a couple of videos of the Lions Cup and the FIVB TVA, Thailand Volleyball Association video that I think you'll be able to send those links to them, Jordan. I'm hoping.
Yeah, I could play some of it without audio right now if you want to talk through a minute or so while it's playing.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do either the Japanese or the Thai one.
And this will all be included in the resource section as well for coaches to see.
Great. Thanks for doing this. So this is match point. and there's 8,000 people watching this match. This is from the 80s. And so what you're seeing is a kid in a green square. That's the libero back then. And watch the roundhouse serve here at match point. But this is side out scoring. And so it's a little jerky. But what I want you to see is how far off the net they are passing and setting. They just ran a quick set there. They just bumped it off the net, cranked it down the line to get to 14-11. Even though this is old side out scoring. Now you're going to see the next one in this rally, another roundhouse serve, which is a great serve for middle and elementary school kids because of the power that the roundhouse serve has. And these kids are coming back from 14-10. We won't show the whole thing, but they're going to win 17-15. And the rallies are fantastic. 1990, I thought it was in the 80s. What you just saw is elementary school volleyball. I'm sorry, the vast majority of elementary school volleyball looks nothing like that. So how did they get there? Part of the answer is after school, the younger kids come first through 4th or 5th grade, and they're coached by the 5th and or 6th grade kids for half of a practice slot. So if you have 1 hour, 30 minutes, the 5th and 6th graders are coaching the 1st through 4th graders. We know that which you teach, you learn. But what they're doing is giving back and feeding the pipeline even younger. They're doing it over the net. And they're getting a chance to get really good by the time they're 6th grade, which is what we're watching now. This is called the Lions Cup. boys and girls. We just saw the girls play, even though they may have looked like boys, they have really short hair. They're from a way southern part of Japan where it's apparently pretty hot. And after 30 or 45 minutes, if it's 90-minute practice, the kids do what? The little kids start to help retrieve and stay on, or they even go home. And the older kids get coached by the PE teacher for that second half of the training period. But 50% of the time, they're either playing as the setter with the younger kids, or they're coaching directly, teaching them and showing them everything. So the ability to play over the net is incredibly important. So let's take a look at some ideas on how the heck do you stop the sad reality of when I go to most elementary schools and middle schools and I open the closet, I see a rack of basketballs. I dig around until I find the volleyball, and I go drag out the volleyball net, and the group plays 12 on 12 or whatever. And yeah, that's volleyball. That's volleyball for your picnic until the burgers are ready. That's volleyball. I understand that. But we're talking tonight about developing fundamentals and the skills as fast as possible and as effectively and efficiently as possible. So how do you do that? You play doubles or triples. And then when they're ready, you go on to the 6-on-6 game. So let's take a look at how you can do that in a gym. This drawing to the right shows the ability to put anchors on the wall, and the video that you'll have in the resource section shows you how to build a rope standard. You just do eye bolts or anchor to anything on the wall, and you can run a rope down, and that rope is what you slide up and down. You don't spend thousands on a standard. This is elementary, middle school PE, getting the pipeline fed. And when you do that, then you just slide it down for the younger kids, and you slide it down for youth tennis, and you slide it down for pickleball, and you slide it down for sitting volleyball, so that the whole class can experience sitting volleyball. And you're just sliding either the net or a ribbon. In this case, we're showing a ribbon. In New York City, I think we're 5 stories underground at Baruch Gym. And, the college kids are giving back to the sport by teaching some younger kids. So just a ribbon imitates the top of the net and lets me read and play over this net, which is what I'm going to do in any match played, even if it is doubles or it's sixes. I have to play over the net. That's our game, 50% of our game. So you can see on the slide also that we've got smaller sided teams. We've got 4 with a sub in this case, so you can get a ton of kids. In the other one, we've got 10 up. And those 10 courts, 6 of them are narrower and longer, and 4 of them in the gym offset are wider and shorter. And that's, again, another way to learn to move and play and read as the ball comes over the net on your court. So a ribbon is great. The other opportunity is to go into, let's go to the next slide, is to go into your gym closet, find the 2 damaged nets, cut them in half, finish the edges, run a rope down all 4 of them and take out the cable. And in this picture, what you've got is a rope standard on the wall, the brick wall by the basket at the end. And then the other investment of about $2 to $3 these days are swim noodles to define the antennas for all 4 of those courts. So it's very big overseas for kids. Kevin asked a question internationally. I spent September for 4 days with Kitty Pong, the Thai women's national team coach, in North Macedonia, and we coached 150 coaches from 40 nations, all 14 and under coaches. And this is exactly what they saw from the stands as we develop playing the game, getting them to get good younger, because internationally, volleyball being one of the top 3 sports in the world, if you're good, they don't have scholastic volleyball as much as they have club programs that take talent and put them into their pipeline. And that's part of the difference. In Canada, the scholastic volleyball in these 2 countries are the strongest probably in the world as far as school representing your school. Japan has some great stuff scholastically, as well as Thailand, but they don't carry it. They don't have the club the way we do. So let's take a look at the next slide about the top skills. So if you're going to want to win and you're playing 6-on-6, you still spend 50% or more of your time playing 2-on-2 and playing speed ball. There's a video that Jordan can share with you on that, which is faster than Queen of the Court. And because you've now got the ribbon going down your gym, you can have speed ball, or you can have 3-on-3, 3-on-3, 2-on-2, 2-on-2. And you can get 32 kids active on these smaller courts playing speed ball, where the instant the ball hits the floor, the side, there's 2 teams waiting to serve on each side, and the losing side, they serve right over the top, and then they don't even wait for the team to get off the court because the other team is going to play a little bit. But if you want to win, then you get simply good at serving and putting the ball back over the net on 1. If that's the 6-on-6, I want to win version. It takes a few, like 2 to 3 months before a team can start to handle people who just send it back over on 1. The people that send it back over on 1 have the only target is the entire court. How high it goes doesn't matter, as long as they just get it to get over the net, and they can put it anywhere on that court. Well, you are probably saying, let's pass, set, hit, kids. Let's do 3 hits. We'll give you an extra point if you do that, or whatever variation. And you struggle with that, partly because of the drills that we do that aren't pass, set, hit. Partner passing isn't pass, set, hit. Setting against a wall isn't pass, set, hit. Serving a ball and isn't serve, pass, set, hit, or anything. So what we want to do is do more using the wall. There's a whole series that Jordan can send you about how to use a wall in a game-like way. I think it's in the back of the resources. And what you do is you put a stripe up on the wall at net height, and you don't spike down to the floor, and you don't go against the wall, because that's getting good at bad volleyball, putting it back to where it came from. What you want to do is have 2 kids with a stripe up on the wall. One of them serves, the other one receives the ball bouncing above the stripe back to them and passes it to the teammate, the second person. That second person sets it. That third person hits the ball off the net, over the stripe, off the wall. That other person then digs the ball, and I set it, and Jordan hits it over the stripe on the wall, and we cooperatively see how many we can do in a row. If you get kids that can do that against the wall, they'll enter the game and play real volleyball. But the ideal training should be pass, set, hit. Even when you say, hi, I'm a volleyball coach, the first thing you say is, let's hit. And you demonstrate. Jordan's off the net at the 3-meter line, and we say, look, this is a 3-meter attack line here. I'm off the net about 1.5 meters. I throw the ball to Jordan. His hands are up. I throw it right into that pocket. He superheroes to me, and I run to his set, and I superhero up, which will look like a big set because it's not going high. And then he hits. And within 5 minutes, he's pass setting and volleyballs. And they're in pairs. So with that ribbon or 2 sets of ribbons, you're having the one group hit to the wall this way and the other group hit to the wall that way, so that the balls hit the wall and come back. And you've got 32 kids in 16 groups going pass, set, spike, overhead pass, set, and spike within the first session of the high. This is volleyball, not forearm pass until their wrists are incredibly red, and they go home and they ice their wrists and say, Mom, this sadomasochist named John Kessel came to my gym, and do I have to go back? But yes, serve receiving is important. Passing isn't, but serve receive is. So big stuff is in the modules on how to teach better serving and serve receive. If you serve great, you'll probably win elementary and 13-year-old 7th grade volleyball just by serving. Let's go to the next slide, which is the recess rule, which is that your program, elementary, middle, or whatever, doesn't need to spend time running and stretching with these kids. They just don't. Those kids have sat there that we call a recess rule. They sat there for 2 hours learning to do division or whatever. And then the recess bell rings and they drop their pen and they hit the ground and they go out and start playing kickball and basketball. And none of them run and stretch. They immediately go into play. Smaller sided games of play to bigger, for sure, would be a good opportunity to grow volleyball. But I think I'm going to mention something here for those of you that are at the high school and college level. If you can keep in your facility of athletics one volleyball net up all the time, that will be one of the most impactful ways to grow the game on your campus. Invariably, there's 6 hoops up or 10 or 12 at the bigger schools, or multiple gymnasiums, and there's never a net up. And I came to this because of elementary schools like Outrigger Canoe Club as a club that have nets up all the time. When kids want to play the game, they just say, I want to play the game, and you get thrown a volleyball and they start playing. They don't go, oh, give me 20 minutes, I got to set up the net. We don't need that to grow the game. We need to have one net up. We don't need it. It's the way we did it at CU. You leave it up all the time. You now can play the 3-on-3 game, which is an Olympic sport, on both sides of that net. And then when it's time, you say, okay, we've got to do full court basketball. Great, take it down. And when you're done, put it up. Right now, it's everybody plays basketball, and when you can, you put the volleyball nets up, and then you put all the nets back down. No. We gotta come up with a place to have a net up all the time. So there's some pepper variations, and this is again back to that desire to teach the good mistake over the bad mistake. Traditional pepper teaches digging back to the spiker as a skill and hitting right at a player. What you want to do is start at minimum with what we talked about in Bon Air and what they all do, which is dig to yourself pepper. It's still the same pepper, but I hit at you and you never dig it back to me. You dig it straight up to yourself, and then you spike it at me, and then I dig it to myself and I spike it at you. You can make that one change. You're going to get what we saw at Cheyenne, where the kids hit balls and dig it up on their side, and they can transition kill because they've been playing speedball all the time, and have this ability to pass, set, hit even when it's imperfect. The tradition of digging back to the spiker just has to go. Get rid of it. Let's take a look at simple expectations. So one of the reasons it's so cool to see 6th graders coaching 1st through 5th graders is that they remember pretty clearly what it's like to be a 4th or a 5th grader, and probably even a 1st grader. I have long forgotten. And so by understanding the students, the mini volleyball book, and I think you can just find it out there, player info page. When you've got a club or you've got time as a PE teacher to, or even that came out of our summer camps when we would teach young kids, they fill out a player information page that teaches me about why they're there, what their favorite number is, who they are, what their latest disappointment might have been, because you want to coach the human, not the player. You want to coach that. So, and setting expectations means that the world is not going to remember if you won the sixth grade school championship, but the kids will remember how you made them feel. And boy, that's important. It's, Mario Angelo, just you got to understand that you want to coach the person, not the player, and know about him. So let's jump to the slide about team systems. If you are mandated to play sixes, you want to still just can specialization. Brazil, Canada, don't let liberos even exist until you're 15. Because it's the right thing to do for their development. Talking to Hugh McCutcheon, he's now the director of sport development after the season ends at Minnesota. He's there to do what we're talking about here, specific in volleyball, with every program at Minnesota. And what we see is that if the kids have to play 6 versus 6, then either you teach a 6-6 or a 6-3 system with no specialization. A 6-6 is what Brazil mandates. They mandate and force until you hit about 15 that you're going to play set 1 of the 6 rotations. Now, what we want to share tonight to the PE teachers and to the clubs and you college guys that are going to be teaching this down the pipe is that when I say 6-6, you can do a middle front setter, all 6 rotations, which is a 4-2. You can do a right front is where everybody sets 1 rotation. That's a 5-1, an international 5-1 when they're setting from the right side. And you can do a 6-3 or a 6-0 setter comes out of position 1 after serving, and that's where they play those 2 rotations of their time on offense and defense before they rotate to a new server. So you're doing a 6-0 or a back row penetrating setter, and that's good. That's what we want to do. Blocking considerations and focus on reading and movement. I just don't know if you need to do any blocking at this level or age group. Hang on a second, really quick. All right. So, thank you. The family forgot that I was up in the room, and so I had to make sure they stop yelling.
No problem.
Blocking is if the skill level, if they deserve to be blocked, then and they can get at least this high above the net, then teach blocking. But otherwise, zero blocking should be taught at this age. You should simply wait until their skills have spiking that needs to be blocked. And the vast majority, 95, 99% at this age don't deserve to be blocked. So what you do is you develop reading and floor defense. And then when they can be tall enough to block, then you teach blocking. But you may not teach blocking to a large number of your kids who never get that tall to block. But they can be hitting. I mean, at high school, the gal I reestablished contact with through Facebook recently, she's a mom and everything, and she was the top hitter in the state, and she was 5'1" because she got set from the back row all the time, but not from the back row by law, by rule. because when she jumped as high as she couldn't get above the top of the net. And so we showed the referee that she was going to jump as high as she could and hit, but it was always going to be below the top of the net. Unless the whole ball's above the top of the net, when you make the contact, it's not how high you jump off the floor, it's where you touch the ball. And then she learned to not hit where she was looking and all these things that are in the bronze level stuff about spiking that you want to teach even at this young level. So team systems, the 6-3 is simply the same option. You can do it from position, rotation at the net position 3 and 2. So it looks like a front row setter. You can do it from position 2 and 1. So it's more like a 5-1. And you can do it from position 1 and 6. And then we rotate to 5. Another person drops back in position 1 and they set 2 of the 6 rotations. Voila. 50% of your kids are learning the leadership role of setting if you're forced to do 6-on-6. It's my hope that you'll, even doing that you'll understand how much learning is happening when you do doubles or triples. And that's what we want to be doing. 50% of our practice, 80% of our practice or more. My son didn't play 6-on-6 until he was about 15. He played doubles a lot, but he never played 6-on-6. All right, let's go to some of these triple ball ideas and stuff. So my plea is for those of you listening to spend the vast majority of your time playing 2-on-2 or 3-on-3. Story time by Lorne Anderson. He adopted this at his club. The kids played just 2-on-2 to maybe 3-on-3 for about 8 weeks. And just towards the end of that first experience of 8 weeks of playing 2 to 3 nights a week of 2-on-2, there was a need in Utah, in Salt Lake City, for a 13 and under program. These kids were all pretty much 11 and unders. Like might have had a 12, but pretty young. There was a need for a team to fill out a pool. And so that night before they got called, and they found 6 players from his club's doubles and triples training experience to practice the rotation and go down with the parents to drive down to Salt Lake City and compete in this event, 24-team event. If I'm not mistaken, they either took second or third. And they never played 6-on-6 until that tournament. Why? Because they were players. It's like I said about Hugh. I got sidetracked. Hugh, when he was on the national team, said, and it applies to everything feeding to him, I want players who are good at all 6 skills and great at 1 or 2. We need to be able to do all the skills. And, the cover of the mini volleyball book shows the gold medal setting Ryan Millar studying this little kid after he'd learned to demonstrate pass set hit. There he is. Look at Ryan's mouth. He's like, ugh, because he and I demonstrated superhero spike. That we had the net low. Ryan then became the setter. And this gives me kind of goosebumps because Ryan in 2008, as a middle blocker, set gold medal point. Because he can be good at all the skills. Yes, he's a great middle hitter blocker, but he can set. And so he set this kid, and this kid jumped up and spiked. And, Ryan's face says it all. All right. So the final part here, about the smaller sided games. Imagine learning how to ride a bike if you had 1 bike and 24 kids. And that's what happens in tournaments when there's 6 on the court, 6 on the other court, 6 on the bench, and 6 on the bench. 1 kid is learning and 23 others are watching. It would take forever to learn how to ride the bike. But what you want to do is start playing doubles where one touches and three wait and watch. And they're going to touch the ball. And that's part of this whole pipeline feeding your elementary slash middle slash high school to the college level. So you learn to be in the right place at the right time through reading. So in talking to Canada about some of the scoring variations you see in the book, they wisely, I think, they force the 12 or 13s, I think 13s even, to, while they might play 6-on-6, they're playing triple ball. And that is because at the beginning level, too often the game becomes air, this is serving, air. Oh my God, it went over the net. And now it's an ace. And then it's another ace. And then they screw up with an error. And then they actually pass it. That's the first 10 contacts of normal middle to elementary school volleyball when there isn't a pipeline of reading feeding you. And so the solution was triple ball. The serve is either an error or an ace, or it's once in a blue moon pass, probably back over the net. But in any case, after that point, that served ball happens, whether it's an error or an ace or actually done something to, Team A gets a ball thrown to them by the referee or the coach or another teammate for them to pass said hit, which they can do because it's not coming in on a serve or a bullet or an error. And then Team B gets thrown a ball. And at the end of these three balls, served, thrown, options exist to say whoever's got 2 out of 3, they get the point. The other option is to say if you get all 3 of those, the served and the tossed and the other toss, and you got all 3 of those, you get 2 points. And the game is played maybe to 30 or whatever. Again, you're developing kids, and going to a game where all that happens is no passing, all service errors is not learning volleyball for all that effort you got to go play some other school or whatever. So instead, Canada has this triple ball, which is feeding the pipeline much stronger developing players. And the final part is make sure to set, unless you lower the net down dramatically, make sure to set the ball well off the net. And as you get better, get closer. That includes both the front set and the back set, which should be taught right away. You'll see the drills called front back, where the ball comes to the setter and they can set it forward or backwards. And you have 2 setters standing side by side, and one sets forward and one sets backwards. And because we're not specializing, after I set, I run and go get the ball. Then I become a passer hitter. Then I set the next ball and I change lines so I can learn to back set the back row D, the ball that's well off the net. They need to learn to do this. Next slide. This is the rule in my mind's eye. So, hey, we're getting basically to a video that's out there to show you how to set up rope nets on a wall or creation of systems so that you can do this. Here's the 4 nets on a rope. Look, there's that amazing thing that you can drill into concrete. And that's what we're doing here. And then you're just tying up to the other eye bolt, and you're tying a rope that it'll bow out, but it's all you do is slide it up and down with a knot that's called the trucker knot. And the trucker knot is the knot that is shown on the video that without a winch, you can tighten up the rope all the way across, even with 4 nets and sagging. Wanted to mention one other thing. If you go to Amazon or eBay, you can find badminton nets at a really low cost and create your own 4 nets on a rope. This is something that we designed with Karen Net. I think that space here only allowed us to do 3 across. Yeah. So we're going across this way in the same gym as where you saw the 4 across. And now we're showing how you make a loop about 2 meters away. And when you make that loop into the rope, now that becomes your winch. This is what's called a trekker knot. So you go around the rope now, go back to that loop and use the, like I do a wrap just to get some sort of friction, but you don't have to usually. Then you put the line through this rope and then you pull on it and the net will just go up and then you throw in a slip knot. And this pulley trekker knot allows you to tighten nets all the way across a gym. And then you put in the slip knot. And I didn't cut the rope here. That's what you're seeing, a little bit of extra rope, right? Because this rope we took off a net and only had 3. Then you tie up the bottom and you get these 4 nets on a rope. In this case, there they are. And now we've got the magical swim noodles making your antennas. So all this is in the video. The book is in Spanish, it's in Italian, and it's in English. You can grab it for friends. And then the videos of the Lions Cup we've seen. So, yeah, thanks for showing the table of contents, free of charge.